Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I trust we are well. Just as the message went out a little bit before 5 p.m., we had initially mentioned that this session will commence at 5:30, and we are here. So I'd like to say welcome once again to yet another round of lectures, learning, unlearning, becoming better citizens. Today, we will be looking at the role of tax in governance. I just want to confirm that we all are geared up for the discussion. Some of us may have some understanding about the topic, some may not, and we are hoping to increase our knowledge in this regard and have a meaningful and rich discussion. Okay, so I want to take a minute before, I think we're just 40, just about 40 on the call. Please go into your respective groups and nudge everyone to come on the call. We will start in earnest, and the beginning of something is always the most important so that you don't miss out on anything. It's always a drag jumping in the middle of a conversation. So it's always good to start with the conversation. So please go in quickly, get your mates on the call whilst I do a brief introduction of our facilitator right about now. Okay. We know the rules. Come in, put in your names on the chat box. We will handle the session for about an hour, 30 minutes. Facilitator will go on and take us through the past, and then we will have questions after. You can place your questions in the chat box, or after the session, have your hand indicated via the virtual option, and then I'll call you to ask your question. I have noticed that even when we say 50 to question short, quite a number of individuals go round about the circles before hitting the nail on the head. It is actually a skill. So please, if you know you're going to be asking a question, try to make the questions as concise as possible, straight to the point, so that we can pick as many questions as we can and have a meaningful and rich discussion. Okay? All right. So our facilitator today is a Nigerian born in Zaria. He started his schooling in Zaria, Kaduna State, and from there proceeded to Ilorin, Kwara State. He later studied sociology at ABU Zaria, and he did his NYSC in the East, somewhere in Enugu State. A facilitator has worked at the First Bank of Nigeria PLC for over 12 years, and he is currently an ICANN student member. He is also a member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, NITAD, or NITAD, not sure how that is. He is passionate about good governance and at every level, and he enjoys reading, he enjoys teaching, and engaging in meaningful conversation. To take us through understanding the role of tax in governance in Nigeria or anywhere globally, we have a facilitator, Mr. Joe Mijinyawa, a beautiful surname, I must say. And I'd like to confirm if he is presently with us so that he can kick off.
Thank you so much, Adeshala. The facilitator will be here in a bit. He's been having some technical issues, but he's joining us soon. But before he comes on the call, I think we can just open the class up to get feedback. You're coming to the end of the cohort. Next week is your last week with us. Should I say fortunately or unfortunately? But either ways, I think we can just take comments from few participants on how it has been for them what they've learned so far, what they didn't know before the start of the cohort, and what they now know and what they'll do about it. So I'm sure by the time we take 2 or 3, the facilitator should be ready. Shala, you
Okay.
can coordinate that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Okay. That works. Okay. So how many of us are excited that we are rounding off next week? You don't have to come on 5 o'clock Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'd like to take comments. Anyone who would like to just walk us through and share a bit of their learning journey this past couple of weeks. Okay, I see Ambassador Honest, Salihu Gode, and Ibrahim Omar. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, and in a minute, please share. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so in just one word, I will say this has been incredibly awesome. Like, classes has been an eye-opener from the beginning. I can't even. I wish we can just continue these classes and even do some practical aspect of this, like physical physical classes for us to really meet and dive into so many things. I wish every political person, someone who is passionate about politics, can actually come to this class before even going ahead to declare their interest in politics. It will really give a very, very strong foundation, and it's really a lot. And I plan on actually stepping down some trainings down to the grassroots through my initiative. So definitely I will be calling back to the organization for partnership and some facilitation, which I won't even mind because I know the doors are always open. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Awesome. Very well said, Honest Salihu Gode. Very well said. And we agree with you. Everyone should really go through these classes before they even declare their intention to run, because it indeed is a solid foundation. Very well said. Thank you so much. And we look forward to the amazing work you will do subsequently. And definitely the college is open to such partnerships and will be willing to also work with you on your journey. Thank you very much. I'll now ask Ibrahim Umar to unmute and just share your learnings.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for putting this for us to benefit. And what I would say is that it's only my deep appreciation for getting myself an opportunity to be part of this cohort, and it was an amazing cohort, and to be learned, and both the practical aspect and the theoretical aspect because of the assignments we do weekly. So this is massive. What I will advise the college to do is that can the college provide a platform or a training classes for our political leaders to gain this experience? Because I was once a counselor in my ward. So I learned a lot that if to say I have this knowledge before becoming a leader in my community, it will have been better for me and eye opener for me to do more. So I think most of our leaders now doesn't have this knowledge, doesn't have this experience. So more in terms of the governance, policy making, and leadership in terms of politics in Nigeria. So thank you very much, the ED and the team leads, the cohort, they tried, and despite the challenges of the IC we have and some of the engagement of our speakers, but it was amazing an experience because money cannot give us all this. So that's what money we cannot afford. So when we get it as a privilege for us and we will not take it for granted and we'll use it wisely. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to be part of the cohort, and we wish and hope to see us in the next or another opportunity as go as we go forward. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Now, that is a question that I'm sure is something that the college has or has come up in thought processes, but I'm sure in the long run, it's something that this is a school, this is a platform that is open to everyone. And we're hoping that as individuals go through this process, they become politically literate so that they can do better. And I'm glad that now that you have gone through it, you know better, you can advise better. And so if we do know better, we will do better. So we will continue to encourage as many young individuals, middle age, to attend so that they can do better within the Nigerian policy and indeed also get some of our leaders, political leaders, to gain knowledge that is needed to ensure that they deliver better to the citizens. All right. Just confirming if facility is here yet, and if it is not, okay, we continue our conversation.
Yes,
All right.
let's. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen him yet. Okay, so anyone else would like to share? I would like to ask a question. How were the debates? Uh, how were the debates? Who wants to walk us through that journey? Any hands? Any takers? The debates or your groupings? How was it? How was it like engaging with individuals from different parts of the country and getting to work together? Was that seamless? Did you encounter some challenges? Would you like to share? Okay, I don't see any hands. Okay, okay, Adetaya, Adeyemi, Adekunle. I see you. I'm going to ask this one you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Our own debate went well. We actually have three candidates who tried.
Okay.
Who tried? We have three candidates who actually tried to contest for the slot, and a lady was among them.
Okay.
And we really put up a good show. Only that we have a bit of network problem, and the network wouldn't allow us finish on a good note. By and large, the lady happened to convince, maybe if the network is a bit better, maybe those guys too might be able to convince the people in my group. But the lady was able to do it, maybe. But at the end of the day, the lady won. And the whole team was prepared to work for her, all our might and all our power. And we pray we shall win. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. I know it's not always easy. The debates are usually not easy, having to come up with campaign posters, a manifesto. A manifesto will definitely get you thinking really deep. And I trust that that process was an eye opener for both the candidate or the aspirant, if I may use the word, so apologies for that. The aspirant and then eventually the candidates who came up and emerged as a representative of the party is usually tasking, but I trust that you even got to know yourself a bit more or your party a bit more during that process. All right, and let me see if there's any other. Is there, okay, Stephen Abba, quickly, I'm going to ask you to unmute before we then move on to our class.
All right. Thank you very much, and good evening,
Good evening.
facilitator, and of course the host. Sorry, and my comrades. Just not too far away from what the last speaker said, we also brought forward a lady. We're trying to actually see how the 35% affirmation can work in our party. So, of course, she contested against 2 males, but from the beginning, the party had said we're going to project a lady to represent the party at the national election. So she came forward, and of course, she's articulate, she's intelligent, and I think she has all it takes to be the president of this country. Also, the opportunity it afforded me, or it affords me, to meet with people from across Nigeria. And of course, I also discovered that the Nigerian theme also been exhibited in the party. You have, you have participation not as strong as it should be. You have people throwing blames here and there. You also have people getting angry unnecessarily. So these are the things we see every day. And because we are Nigerians who found ourselves in the virtual world, the behavior is still the same. But the good thing about this training, I call it training, and I'm a student, here is that it has changed my mentality about a lot of things. I've unlearned, and I'm relearning. So many things I can't begin to talk about here. Like I download every of the materials, I have the downloads, which I'm still going to go through them like a book after the class, because I need to internalize a lot of these things learned here, and I need to apply them around my locality and of course Nigeria. And like the first speaker said, the ambassador, I'd said this earlier some time ago, and I'm still saying it just to reiterate what she has said. Every politician, it should be made like a rule, a law, that any politician who is coming to contest anything in this country should pass through ECN, because before you become an accountant, you either when you go through ANAN or ICANN, you go to law school to become a lawyer. So how come a country's destiny is in the hand of leaders? So why shouldn't these leaders be given special training? These are the people that make decisions about people. So it's my submission. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stephen. All right. Okay. I'm glad that you all shared your perspectives and experiences. Usmatu Abubakar, I know you have something to say. I probably might call you later, but right now our facilitator is in class, and I would not want to keep him waiting for any minute longer. I will quickly reread his bio so that I could just have him come up quickly and take us through the class. Okay? I trust that's fine. So our facilitator this evening is none other than Mr. Joe Mijinyawa, and he is a Nigerian who was born in Zaria. He started his schooling in Zaria, Kaduna State, and from there proceeded to Ilorin, Kwara State. He later studied sociology at ABU Zaria, and then did his NYSC in Enugu State. He has worked at First Bank of Nigeria PLC for over 12 years, and he is currently an ICANN student member. He's also a member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development. Mr. Joe is passionate about good governance at every level. He enjoys reading, he enjoys teaching, and engaging in meaningful conversations. So I have no doubt that today's class will even be rich and full of meaningful discussions, questions and answers, inputs and comments and observations. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome our facilitator, Mr. Joe Mijinyawa, as he takes us on understanding the role of tax in governance. Good evening, sir, and welcome. We have been waiting to receive you.
I am truly and honestly sorry. You know, these gadgets, they have their own way of doing things. I woke up
Okay.
this morning, it was all right, and then all of a sudden, one thing or the other, I thought I could finish it in good time, but unfortunately, it took longer. But thank God I'm here.
Yes, sir.
So,
Welcome, sir.
thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe, and she has already given you a brief of who I am. I'll be taking you through understanding the role of tax in governance. Though this topic ought to be changed, but I am trying to wait until the tax bill has been assented to by the president so that we would do a rejig of the curriculum. So, but for now, we'll just I will just take you through the rudiments of taxation as it concerns governance. So, generally, we'll be looking at tax as a means through which the government is funded, and it remains the main source of income for the government, among other sources. Other sources, of course, will be like in Nigeria, we have sale of crude oil. We have, at some levels, we have fines and penalties. We have sale of national assets. We have also loans. With the government is allowed to take loans and all that. So generally, these are the various other sources of fund. But what we're discussing today is about taxation. Now, it is also good for us to look at it from a different perspective, not just as a citizen, but as a citizen who aspires to be in governance. And when you find yourself in that position, definitely there are different ways to raise those funds. And one of it, as I said earlier, is tax. Now, taxation, as it is supposed to be the tool through which the government raises revenue. Like in Nigeria today, I think taxes are the major sources of funds for the government. And a lot of people would frown at different types of taxes that are being imposed and all that. But the truth of the matter is, you can't govern an entity or a country perfectly without imposing these taxes. At the end of this, we should be able to understand the reasons for tax and taxation, the need for government to collect taxes, who should collect the tax, and what are the basic principles of a good tax system, and then the sources of our tax laws in Nigeria. We have different definitions of tax, one of which is money that you have to pay to the government so that it can pay for public services. Another one is a monetary charge imposed by the government on persons, entities, or property levied to yield public revenue. Based on the definitions, we can say tax is a compulsory contribution levied by a government of a country on the incomes, profits, goods, services, or properties of individuals and corporate persons, trusts and settlements. And such taxes are used for carrying out governmental functions, which include maintenance of law and order, provision of infrastructure, health and education of the citizens, or as a fiscal tool for controlling the economy. So generally, tax can be used in some cases to control the use of certain items, or to also levy on those that use certain items. Like we have the luxury tax, which is levied on luxury items. You have people that own private jets, people that own yacht and all that. They are expected to pay a certain form of levy to the government, just so that they give back to the government part of their luxury as it is. Now, the process of levying and collection of tax from taxpayers is what is called taxation. Now, looking at governance, I'm sure from other topics, from other discussions, we should by now know that governance is about monitoring and controlling decisions, as well as giving leadership and direction. So in this context, we'll be looking at in whose interest is the country governed, who has the power to make decisions for the country, how is the power used, for what aim or purpose is the power used, who else might influence the governance of the country. Are the governors held responsible and accountable for the way they govern their states? These are questions that will open for bigger discussions, but for the purpose of this class, we'll let it slide. But generally, we'll look at the history of the Nigerian tax system also. Now, knowing the history of Nigeria, you would also agree with me that what we were taught is basically about the North, the West, and the East. So in this case, you look at in the North, they had shuka, they had zakat, they had some form of cattle levy. There was kudin kasa for those doing agriculture. They pay to the emirs, and these emirs use that in order to fund the activities of the emirates. So they pay for other items, and then they also ensure that if there's any uprising or anything, they can also at least support those that will be defending their territories. We have in the south, we have the Ishakole, contribution of farm products as a form of land tax in exchange of the use of land for agricultural purposes. This was payable to the Obas. There was Owori, which is also like individual tax. Maybe we'll call it today personal income tax. And we have the one from the east, Osusu Machiunku, levies on palm fruits. There were also taxes because those were basically the businesses that were thriving. It was either agriculture, it was basically agriculture rather. And so all these farming, livestock, all that falls under agriculture, and those were the ways they were able to levy those taxes on their citizens. Rivers, Bayelsa, where they have the fishermen and all that, they also had their own kind of taxes levied on them. But the Nigerian taxation in its present form is traced to the establishment of British colony in Lagos, that was in 1861, and then subsequently the amalgamation of Nigeria of 1914. Now we have the various laws of those days, the native law or the law ordinance. We have the non-natives protectorates tax ordinance of 1931. We also have the proclamation law of 1914. Well, in all these, it was in order to achieve uniformity in the system of taxation throughout the geographical entity called Nigeria. The colonial government set up the Raisman's Commission in 1958. The commission introduced uniform basic income tax principles and all that. These were all moves at different levels, and basically at this one would say is at national level, just to ensure that everybody, one way or the other, is taxed so that government has enough funds to run its affairs. Now we'll look at the objectives of taxation. The basic one we'll talk about is revenue generation. It's meant to be the main source for capital projects, otherwise called capital expenditure, creating a social and economic infrastructure which will improve the social life of the people. It's also used for redistribution of income and wealth. Like when I mentioned the luxury tax, those kind of taxes are levied on those at the top, those who are able to afford the luxury, and then it is shared among the whole communities or the whole nation, because if the taxes are collected from the big guys, the infrastructure is for everybody. So it's for redistribution of income and wealth so that people will feel the comfort of living in a country. Then we have the management of the economy. I spoke about luxury items, and then there are some prohibited items that somehow the government cannot stop the use, but they must impose levies and duties, excise duties on those items just so that they discourage the use of those items. Such items include alcohol, cigarettes, and even betting. They are being taxed just so that people spend more to continue those kind of habits. So in Nigeria, the government oftentimes introduces tax incentives and attractive tax reliefs as an instrument to woo and induce local and foreign investors into the areas of manufacturing of goods, exports, processing, oil and gas. Like we have the free trade zone. For those that have their businesses there, they are being exempted from taxes, from some form of taxes. Then harmonization of economic objectives. This is done maybe at a regional level where we have organizations like ECOWAS, so that there's like a single market for free movement of people and goods within the region. So once everybody knows, okay, we're able to trade amongst ourselves as West African countries, it gives you opportunity to move your goods down to other countries. So the principles of taxation are premised on the work of Adam Smith, 1776. He talked about equity, that the rich should pay more while the poor should pay less. In the language of Nigeria, I would say, let the poor breathe. So in this case, there should be equity. It shouldn't be that there's a flat rate where everybody must pay a particular amount. No, it should be based on what you earn or what you're able to recover from your business, your revenue, and your incomes. Then there should be certainty. People should know what they are paying for or what they are being levied, the amount to be paid. It shouldn't be vague. There should be clear understanding by the taxpayers. And then it should be convenient. And I really appreciate the moves by the Nigerian tax system, where you have the Federal Inland Revenue Service and some state internal revenue services that have made their collection of taxes very, very, very fair and easy. They have automated it so that people can be able to pay their taxes from the comfort of their homes with the belief that there is mutual trust. The government trusts you to do your self-assessment and you pay the right things. Administrative efficiency, the cost of collection or the process of collecting these taxes should not outweigh should not outweigh the reason for it. So it shouldn't be such that you would go and bring some stringent measures that you know will be expensive just because you want to collect taxes. Then it should be simple, it should be productive, it should be flexible and stable. So it shouldn't be such that every year they will tell you, no, we have changed this tax, no, we have changed that rate, we have changed, no. There should be stability so that people understand what they are paying for and how they are paying without any form of confusion here and there. Then there are we'll also look at types of taxes. You have the proportional, where you have maybe like a fixed tax rate, say 20%. Everybody, if you earn 100, you pay 20%. If you earn 1,000 naira, you pay 20% of what you earn. And then the progressive, which is similar to the pay as you earn. The higher your pay, the more you earn. You pay, the more taxes you pay. Then the regressive, which is not applicable anywhere, is a type of tax that decreases as the taxpayer's income increases. This is not, it doesn't meet up with the principle of equity of Adam Smith. And then we'll look at the other form of classification for taxes, where you have the direct and indirect. There are some taxes that go directly at the taxpayer, where you have the personal income tax, the company's income tax, the capital gains tax. I'm sure people will be asking what capital gains tax is. Now, capital gains tax, I think, is one of the big types of taxes that Nigerians don't actually really know about, but it is levied on gains that you have. Supposing you travel out or you have proceeds from a foreign business where they pay you in foreign currency, and then you sell the foreign currency to a bureau de change, and you have a gain on exchange, definitely you're supposed to pay a tax on that gain. Or supposing you purchase a car and then Yes, this is a perfect time to even make this explanation. Maybe I bought a car at 1 million, 2015, or no, 2013. And that same car today is selling for 6 million, which is even fairly used, not the new one. And I want to sell it. It is assumed that I have made a gain because if you are even looking at depreciation, I have depreciated it, but then there's still gain at disposal. So I'm supposed to calculate that gain and pay 10% to government. Then we have the hydrocarbon tax, which is also direct on those who are into the oil and gas businesses. Then we have those indirect taxes where there is no particular mention of this is what you are paying, but somehow it's included. Most of you would agree with me that when you go to shops like ShopRite, there is VAT added to it, but you don't feel it, especially when you're paying for large items. They just give you that final amount. You just swipe your card and you move on. But these are taxes that are levied on each and every one of us for consumption. There's the stamp duties, which is basically on agreements made between individuals or corporates. Then we have the excise duties and the custom duties, which is collected by custom at the point of entry. This usually might affect cost of living as they constitute taxation on expenditure. Now, we would also be looking at the tripod of taxation, which speaks to the tax policy, the tax law, and the tax administration. Now, those tax policies are general statements of intention, which guide the thinking and action of all concerned towards the realization of said goals. It usually includes pursuance of tax law regime with the aim of reducing individual tax burden. Like we also have the introduction of the self-assessment, movement of emphasis from income tax to consumption tax, which is less. These are all statements that government at different levels or tax policymakers come together to discuss on how to come up with the right policies that will fit the economy or fit the situation of a particular country. Now, it goes also to talk about the tax laws, where you have the various taxes that back the taxes. There are laws that back the taxes. So nobody will come and meet you and tell you pay social tax when there's no law backing it. So you have the Personal Income Tax Act, you have the Companies Income Tax Act, Capital Gains Tax Act, Value Added Tax Act, Education Tax Act, Stamp Duties Act, Hydrocarbon Tax, and all. Well, the hydrocarbon is also emanated from the Petroleum Industry Act. So in Nigeria, the constitution vests the legislation of income tax, whether personal or corporate, on the federal government in order to promote uniformity. However, the three tiers of government share the administration of various taxes, and that will take us to the discussion on tax administration. And here we'll be looking at the three tiers: the Federal Inland Revenue Service, backed by the Federal Inland Revenue Establishment Act 2007, is in charge of collecting taxes for corporates, while the State Internal Revenue Service for all personal income taxes. However, the personal income tax of armed forces and the police is collected by Federal Inland Revenue. And then we have the Local Government Revenue Committee, who are also in charge of collection of very, very other little taxes like the market stall tax. I'm sure you remember. Most of you are conversant with all these guys, especially in Abuja, where they'll be harassing Hilux. Any pickup they see, they harass them. Or if you have a logo on your car, they stop you because they are supposed to pay a certain kind of levy in order to pay. And then if you don't have that payment done, they slam you with penalties and all that. Some of them even carry sticks, this wood with nails to block roads. These are all sources of collecting revenues at the local level. Now, we've discussed the sources of Nigerian tax laws, talking about the customary laws of like the Ishakole, the Osusunku, the Zakat, and all that. Then the statutes of laws. These are tax legislations passed by acts of national and state assemblies. And then we have also case laws. The various cases at the Supreme Court, Appeal Court, and the High Court, which on principles of tax laws and their interpretations of the provisions of tax statutes are binding on the lower courts. Then we have circulars from issued by the Inland Revenue Services, the Constitution of Nigeria, the opinions of tax experts and authors, insofar as the courts take judicial notice of them. So in conclusion, it is pertinent to note that taxes are collected in order for the government to have adequate funds to run the affairs of the country or state, as the case may be, for the government to be able to defend her territories, build infrastructure, and also ensure that its civil and public servants are adequately paid their remunerations. Tax must be involved. As such, in governance, we must know that tax is of utmost importance and must be collected by government. It should also be noted that the payment of tax is a constitutional duty of every citizen, and everyone should abide by this. Just as the saying goes, give unto Caesar what is for Caesar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. An interesting discourse on taxes. Thank you. So right now, we'll take questions. Questions, if any. Okay, Ibrahim Omar, I see your hand. I'd ask you to unmute now, followed by Aditayo. Go ahead, Ibrahim.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much, Mijiyewa, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
My own is you talked about the tax that were collected in the north, most especially we call them haraji.
Yes.
Collected by emirs.
Yes.
But now that tax is not more, that policy of collecting that tax is no more existing in the north, because we grew up and we were given history.
Yes.
That this is how tax were collected. But now that's not the way the tax were collected. So but it's the only that what do we call forest what do we call it, harajin daji. For example, this, what do we call it, this firewood.
Yes,
when
yes,
they cut it, make it charcoal, and if they are passing, I think in the
Yes,
major
please.
road or the road, that you will see some people collecting it or under the
Yes.
forestry department of your local government. So they will
Yes.
have a forestry staff that they were collecting 200 naira, 500, 1,000, depending on how the trucks is being loaded.
Yes.
So my question is that haraji of Dakachi and Mayangwa that we have collected before, now is it the government have changed the policy of collecting the tax, or that tax is being cancelled from collecting that tax? Then my second question is that when I contested for councillorship, they asked us to go and pay for tax. In terms of when you want to fill your form to contest for any for any.
I'm sure they didn't say you should go and pay. They say you should come with your tax clearance.
Yes, they didn't ask me, but you have to go and pay. yes. And indirectly, they asked us to go and do it now.
No,
they asked us, but they asked us to come up with tax clearance. So what my question is that the other people that did not contest, that means is government owing them that tax clearance, or they are not capable, they're not entitled of paying the tax?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that question. Now, concerning the first one, you would understand with me that the emirs, the dakachis, though they still exist, but the structure of the government has changed the way they operate. The emir, as it is answerable to the local government chairman, if I'm right. you agree with me that he doesn't have the powers to institute certain things as it used to be in those days. That is because a government has been formed and he has to abide by the laws of the government. So at the local government level, there are different levies that are being imposed also, though not it might not be totally exercisable these days, probably because people don't even know much about it. But I used to remember also growing up, there was even ground rent to be collected at the level of local government. Now, if you have a shop in a local government, there's a local government arm that will come and meet you for a particular type of payment. If you have signposts on the road, local government will harass you. People pay for it. Now, those are the kind of taxes that have evolved over time because of the peculiar changes in structure of governance in the country. That's for that. Now, looking at the second question, where you said because you wanted to contest, they say you should go and collect your tax clearance. It only means that ordinarily, if not because you are going to contest, you will not pay your tax, which means automatically, if they are supposed to follow the right thing, if you don't produce that thing, you cannot also be a part of governance because you have to practice what you are going to go and do. So if you don't pay your taxes, automatically you can't get tax clearance. And every income of every individual is expected to be taxed. But I beg to reason this. In Nigeria, we don't have data. That is one of our major problems. And number two, the income of most people are below a particular threshold. And in taxation, for fairness and equity, there is a minimum amount that you earn before you can start paying, especially personal income tax. I think before it was pegged at the minimum wage, which was 30,000. So it means that now that minimum wage has increased to 70 something, automatically, until you earn such, you are not expected to pay personal income tax. However, there's VAT that everybody pays, but we don't know. Some of us don't remember that we pay VAT because the small Coca-Cola you buy, the small sweet you buy, taxes have been incorporated into those items. And so I wouldn't say people don't pay their taxes, but probably I would say people don't pay the right taxes at the right time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for the response to that question. I will take Aditayo next.
Thank you so much, Mr. Facilitator.
Thank you, sir.
My own question is this. Why is it so much difficult for Nigerians to pay tax? That is number one. Number two, why is the tax being paid by people and not showing that people pay this tax? And you see, here is your tax, and this is what your tax have done for you. Because these days, you notice most of our so-called leaders, our political leaders, many of them are not even paying taxes. And when it comes to the time to pay that tax, to contest, you just see they will quickly go and pay one money and they will collect a tax certificate and say they are paying tax. Because I noticed we have so much, I don't know what should I call them. Is he, I will call them fake consultant because they're actually doing it and they are paying peanuts into the government coffers and they are taking the large. Because I have a friend like that is a tax collector. He called himself a consultant. And all of a sudden, I noticed the rate at which is
Like this,
better,
the way is
better than
relaxed.
Better than we who are actually doing the real work. So thank you.
All right. I would take it this way. You mentioned Nigerians not paying their taxes. I know that in response to the first question, the person that asked the question, I mentioned lack of data. It is quite disheartening that we are not able to track our populace as a nation. So it is very difficult for us to even say this is what it is. I can't remember the last time we had census in Nigeria. I think 1991, if I'm correct. Okay, no, I think there was one sometime back. But then the thing is, it's not proper. It should be either 5 yearly or 10 yearly, so that you would be able to even say that, okay, if we do a census, you can easily be able to categorize your population and know, okay, this growing population, this is what they are doing, this is how much we can budget and say this is our expectation from this group of people. And with that, you'll be able to see that you can track it. But truly, it's not, I would say it's not impossible, but I think we'll need true leaders who have the love of the country at heart to put in these things and ensure that things work the way they ought to be. Now, taxation, in one of the definitions of taxation, it is not an amount paid with expectation for something in return. No, it's a compulsory levy. It's your civic duty to do. So when you pay it, you are not going to sit down at home and say, road must come to front of my house because I paid my tax. It doesn't work that way. It is constitutional. You pay it. It is up to the government to prioritize what to do. Now, you would agree with me that over the years, these past few years, there's been insurgents. The government has been collecting loan to buy more arms, to see how they can quell the Boko Haram and ISWAP and what have you. Where is this money coming from? And I hope you know that taxes, and if you hear that, for instance, Federal Inland Revenue collected 5 trillion or 25 trillion or 14 trillion, it doesn't mean that he collected it in one day and gave Tinubu, see 14 trillion, take. If you know how much the overhead of the country is for federal civil servants, let's start from there. There's an overhead for them. You have everybody telling you they have different allowances with all this travel and what have you. It is still from those votes, those amounts that enter as tax. Then you have the other side of it, infrastructure. You would see this project here, project there, and that was why the government had to even go through another option of getting funds. In the past, they used to cook, which was like a form of government bond. And then you would also agree with me that the government sells treasury bills, all in trying to build and grow revenue. But has anybody ever asked that I bought government treasury bills, what did they use the money for? No. But instead, you're looking at the interest rate for treasury bills has increased. Let's quickly go. So you see, it's just it's a different ball game when it comes to governance. And we must give it to the government that they are doing their best. And all we should pray for is for leaders coming up like me and you, who should come up with a better standard of governance so that we can do these things right and make an impact in this country. Thank you very much. I hope that answers you.
Okay. I move to please Akemi.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Please, I want to know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. So I have two questions. So one is about the tax to GDP ratio. So with all of the collections of tax that we hear, FIRS collected this and all of that. So I still sad that Nigeria still has a very low tax to GDP ratio. I think at the last check, it was about 10% thereabouts, which is far below the African average of 15.8%.
Yes.
So I want to ask, because that's one of the reasons why the presidential committee on tax reforms was set up, right? So I want to ask, from all of the reforms that they have proposed, which of these reforms, right, may be particularly instrumental to enhancing tax coverage and helping to increase the tax to GDP ratio? So that's one. So let me just ask the other one so that it will be taken at once. So the other one is that tax is a fiscal tool, as has been mentioned earlier. So because it's used to retool the economy and all of that. So I want to ask, at what point, or what is the relationship between fiscal policy and monetary policy? Because I'm aware that both of these are particularly important in governance. So what's the relationship between fiscal policy and monetary policy? Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. So starting from the tax to GDP ratio, I know that from different forums at the public hearing at the Senate, there were various submissions by both the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Tax Reform Committee, and all that, of which I think they have introduced some incentives to encourage businesses. Like I know that in the past there was 0% tax rate for people who had less than was it 50 million turnover or thereabouts. They have increased it, however, with the new tax reform bill, and I think they have graded VAT also to increase at various levels, but not immediately. These are all policies that are trying to see how they can encourage businesses to grow so that it affects the tax to GDP ratio. Your other question on monetary and fiscal reforms. Taxation falls under fiscal reforms, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've mixed up something somewhere, but the monetary has to do with control of spending, where the government at some point will tell you that, okay, if you're taking loan, for instance, it will be at a very high rate to discourage people from getting more money. And then at some point, it can be reduced to encourage people to also ensure that they get funds to run their businesses. In terms of savings, there are times you remember in the past where they reduced interest on savings. I think at a point it was at a very ridiculous rate of 3% or thereabout. So it was supposed to discourage savings and encourage spending and investing so that there is more money flowing in the country. So taxation falls under the fiscal policies of the country, and the monetary part of it is to ensure that there is a control on the exchange and spending power of citizens. That's where you have rates for savings changing just to encourage people to do more. And then also when things like loans are reduced, it also entices people to do more in their businesses via loans and all that. So that's practically the bit I can give for this class.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Any more?
Stephen? Yes, more. We have about 4 more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. Stephen, I've asked you to unmute, please.
Okay, thank you very much, my facilitator. On the slide 15, that is under principles of taxation.
Yes.
E of it said simplicity. The tax system should be such that it's simple to understand by the taxpayers. And I've always seen, just like you were trying to give example earlier, like in Benue State, we have BRS, Benue State Internal Revenue Service. You come and collect tax. You have, I think FIRS collects tax too. You now see local government collecting tax. Double. So at what point is double taxation legal? Because this is double, triple taxation. Is it right? Or some people are using their offices to just wing the people? I need to have an explanation for this.
Okay.
Why can't tax just be singular?
So that is part of what the tax reform is trying to encourage, is trying to bring up. Part of the reasons in the past is, like I said, in tax administration, you have the state, you have the federal, you have the local government. They all have their different taxes that they are expected to collect. So like at federal level, they collect companies' income taxes. They are only supposed to collect companies' income taxes from people, corporates, registered as limited liabilities. But at the state level, they have businesses that are owned by individuals, enterprises. That is where the state is supposed to collect from them. Now, the state also goes to those companies to pursue them for personal income tax of their employees, which is backed by the law. And then the federal is saddled with the tax of collecting value-added tax. And so they must collect the value-added taxes from both state and local, from both corporates and individuals in business, provided there is exchange of consumption of goods and services. So somehow it is backed by the law. I won't tell you that it is wrong for them to do it, because the local government too have their own way of raising these funds. Like I explained to you, sometimes you see them on the road with their sticks and dagger and what, harassing motorists. They will tell you there's one sticker that they sell, or there's dustbin, something. They are all backed by the law. Because if they are not backed by the law, they won't be standing there. They won't be doing that. So I believe with time, this will be probably more simpler if people are aware. It is the lack of awareness that makes it complex, not the government making it complex. But if there was a way, the internal revenue services, both at the federal and state levels, will do a proper sensitization to their citizens and educate people on these things, I'm sure it will be simpler for people to understand, and it will be less a burden for people to pay. Because when you understand something, you work towards it, and it won't be a burden to you. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, true. Okay, I see a lady. We've not had a lady since we started taking questions, so I will take Grace Speaker. I've asked you to unmute.
All right. Good evening, our facilitator. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the topic so far. I think my question is tax paying and the internal tax, which is collected by the state.
Yes.
I believe those tax, like I work, where I formerly work with, the tax they do collect from my mother. How did they normally calculate the tax? Because I think what we are selling in that shop does not what the tax they are charging us on. Then that is another place. How do they calculate the tax according to businesses, or is it general payment for all businesses? That is my number one question. Then the second question I have is on all these trader, all these the people that are selling pure water, selling small things in the market. Is it government that is sending those tax collectors to take tax from them? Because I believe someone that is selling pure water, how much is the person making from the pure water business? or all these old women that are selling things in the market, or these young people that join market because of they want to just do something to help themselves. So I'm asking, is it government that is telling them to take those money from their hand, or is people that are just doing that? That is my question, sir.
All right, thank you very much. First things first, I remember I spoke about tax laws that back the collection of taxes. And most of these taxes cannot be collected if they are not backed by the law. However, you mentioned the rates of collection. I know that personal income tax, for instance, has a grading. First 300,000 is graded at is taxed at 7%. The next 300 at the next 300 at 9%, and then the next 500 at 11%, the next at 15%, then the first 1.6 million it's levied at 19%, and then above 1.6 million is levied at 24%. Now, there is what we call consolidated relief allowance, which the government allows. In the old tax law, this was 200,000. There was a law before that used to exempt you if you have children in schools, but over time the government said no, let's just remove 200,000. After you calculate the income, you take out the pension contribution, you take out pension contribution, you take out housing and all that. The balance, you take out 200,000 plus 1% of the gross. When you take out 1% of the gross plus 200,000, then what is left? You now calculate the first 300, the second 300, like that. However, my sister, it depends on who is collecting what. In some cases, like my guy was talking about consultants, sometimes those consultants take advantage of people's ignorance. And that is why I would encourage us, especially at this level when we're looking at governance, when we're looking at vying for political positions, we should try and be conversant with these laws so that we can ensure that we guide people accordingly and we will not be misguided in any way. I hope this helps us. Then the one for market women, like I mentioned, at the federal level, they have their jurisdiction. At the state level, they have their jurisdiction. And then at the local government level, they have their own jurisdiction. And it depends on which local government and who and what they decide to do. The local government revenue committee has the power to say, okay, we have noticed that Akara women, they have started making so much money. We used to see crowd sitting around their table and eating plenty. We need to encourage them to start paying their taxes. And then they will tell them, oh, well, madam, for you to be putting fire here and the smoke affecting the ecosystem, you be paying so amount. And people will have to do it because it is backed by the law. Because they must have passed it, the chairman must have agreed, and they must have also discussed it probably at one point at the joint tax board, because we have what we call the joint tax board, which harmonizes all the state internal revenue services with local governments, and it tries to pass down certain laws that have been agreed at the joint tax board level to be imposed at the state level for them to generate their revenue. So generally, it's not as if those collections are illegal. It depends. I cannot be too perfectly sure, but I know that for them to be bold enough to be out there in the market, there is a law backing them, and they're expected to collect those levies. So it is just what it is in Nigeria, that at the federal level, at the state level, at the local, there are different taxes that are meant to be collected. Now, considering the rates for taxes, I've told you about that for personal income tax. The one for VAT is 7.5%. We have the graded companies' income taxes at 0%, 25%, and 30% for different categories of businesses. So these are things that are out there for you or for citizens to read. But the truth is, Nigerians, we hardly read. And so when somebody comes to chance us, we cannot defend ourselves. But I will encourage us, in as much as it is not our profession, but you need to know the basics. So it is very good that you make yourself abreast with this tax reforms bill and all that. It's out there on the internet. You can just pick it up, skim through it, and have an idea. So that even if it is somebody trying to do the wrong thing, you can correct him and correct him with the law, with the backing of what is written. So with that, I think we'll be able to solve our major problems in this country, provided people are well educated. Thank you.
Okay, interesting conversation. Damola, I'll ask you from you, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My question goes thus: is it lawful for tax collector to forcefully collect tax from the citizen?
This one off me. Well, it is. I won't. Well, the law backs it because there's a schedule in the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act that gives the power to the tax collector to seal your business if you refuse to pay your taxes. And that is why we also have the tax appeal tribunal, so that if you as a taxpayer feel that you are cheated, you can run to the tax appeal tribunal to lay your complaint, give your facts, and so that they will be able to take the proper thing. But let me tell you, my brother, tax, you must pay your tax. Refusal to pay, they can enforce the law on you. And in some cases, it can take you to jail. So it is backed by the law, yes. And it's not that they are forcefully doing it, but they are only enforcing the law. Thank you very much.
Okay, very well said. Joko Chinedum, I'll ask you from you.
Pardon?
No, I've asked Chinedu from mute. I don't know whether he's there.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for the great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
My question, sir, is on tax evasion and eviction. That is a situation whereby people don't respond to their civic responsibilities of paying taxes. And you agree with me that it's common among us in Nigeria. I want to know, sir, what can be done to cover those loopholes? What can be done by authority to encourage citizens to pay their taxes, even as at when due? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. First things first, like I mentioned earlier, let's have proper data. If we have proper data of the citizens, their occupations, their businesses, their sources of income, and all that, it's a step forward. Now, also, there is a need for enlightenment, a lot of education, tax education and enlightenment, so that people understand what it takes. Because I can tell you for free that there are lots of people that will just think, I beg, this thing, they are just disturbing us. No. The implication of not doing it is bigger. But because, of course, you know how the country runs. If today tax collector comes, is your brother, or you know somebody that works in the Inland Revenue Service, and when they come and harass you, you quickly call the big man. Say, okay, they don't come again. No, you say, you call them and say, get out of there. Man, no man. If people can be as ethical and professional in their dealings. Let's take away sentiments. Let's take away selfishness. The right things will be done. And the wrongful people will be punished. So for me, I believe that if the government is really serious, first of all, let's grow our database. Let's know what we have so that we can project evenly and correctly. Then next thing is, okay, people, we have these laws. And to be fair on this government, they've done a lot on these tax reforms. They've done public hearings. They've done all that. People, it has been ringing in people's ears. So when it comes, nobody will say, but we did not know that it was coming. Lie. They have done their best. Now, more to it is to take people responsible for their actions. Let people be responsible for their actions and inactions also. So with those three things, for me, if we're able to put it in place, people will pay their taxes. But if there's no punishment for undoing, everybody will also undo. But the moment people see that, this was serious, so I had better wake up, everybody will be able to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Gradually moving to the very end. Olalite Uluwaseyi, I've asked you to unmute. It's like the more of you keep raising up your hands. Okay. So you go ahead, please. Hello, Shay, go ahead. Ask your question. Hello. Okay. I don't know what happens to Shay's. We can't hear you if you're speaking. So I'll just move on quickly to the next question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, our facilitator, and thank you to our lecturer this evening. Now, one of the things that you let us know when you started this lecture was that the major source of income where the government generates revenue is tax rather. So in this task, and then I want to ask that, okay, at what point do you think that the tax is getting too much? Because one of the things that people said when they started the the tax reform then was that Tinubu, our president then in Lagos State, they are paying a lot of taxes in Lagos State, and then that is the same thing he wants to bring to the federal level also. But every one of us wants our state to be like Lagos State, want everything to be running very well. We want all those kind of luxuries people are enjoying in Lagos State. So at what point do you think that tax is going to be getting too much on our neck? And are we, compared to other countries, is Nigeria actually paying tax the way we should be paying it, since we also want the kind of life that's being experienced in other parts of the world? And secondly, my question is that I could recall that when they were doing campaign in US, when Trump firstly wanted to enter, the first thing that they used to attack him was he should present his tax receipts then. And then he said he said by himself that he's a smart person, that he doesn't pay taxes. And then nevertheless, he still won the election at that particular time. So I want to ask, as a business person, in what legal way can we, as a business person, be exempted from tax? Thank you.
All right, thank you. So first things first, at what point is tax too much? Well, for me, provided it is not equitable, where it does not follow the principles of taxation, it's not simple, it's not convenient, it's not equitable. Those principles that we looked at earlier, provided it's not productive, it's not flexible, it's not certain, then of course it will be too much. So once taxation follows these principles, these guiding principles, according to Adam Smith, I believe one should be able to measure to know whether or not. Now, Nigerians, as we are, we like ourselves very well. And until we wear the shoe, we will not know what is happening. Now, the truth is, what the government is doing, it has to do it. And what Lagos State has experienced can testify to the fact that it was worth it. So I believe it will just be a matter of time. People will recover from all this. It's natural for people to complain. And of course, there's no perfect leader. So you definitely have people complaining. Everybody will do that. But you and I need to make ourselves different in understanding the reason behind it. What is the government trying to achieve? And from the precedents of the person in question, is it feasible that Nigeria will experience something better? These are questions we should have in our minds, and we should be able to give ourselves possible answers to them, so that we'll be able to know if what is being done is done rightly. Now, in the world generally, I think Nigeria is still the very minimum when it comes to tax rates. Until this reform, there are some taxes that are as low as 50 naira. Stamp duties, you hear 2.5%, you hear 0.075%. That's ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, because how much are you going to raise at the end of the day? Even the VAT of 7.5%, to be fair on Nigeria, we're still the least. There are countries that pay as high as 15%. So those are the things we should look at. But of course, if we can leverage on our population, it will also help us with our low rates and ensuring that people are able to pay. Then it will make up for the minimum level of taxes. Now, speaking about Trump is a businessman. And in taxation, there's what we call tax planning, there's tax evasion, and tax planning, tax evasion. The third one, escapes me, sorry. There are three. But tax planning is legal. Tax planning is legal. In tax planning, you are only looking at ways in which you run your business such that you would pay low taxes. You'll be paying for this consultancy, because if I give you one of the tips, it will help you a lot. But let me just say it out. So if you look at the financial statement of companies like Dangote, and if you look at the way he has structured his business, Dangote is a very smart businessman, and that has earned him a lot of tax waivers. Now, one of them is the fact that if you understand the rural allowance given to businesses in taxation under capital allowance, if you situate your business where there is no government infrastructure, there is a kind of waiver you would get. Now, if you are going into a new business that somebody has, an innovative business that somebody has not done before, and it's your patent right, there's a type of waiver you would have. Then a common one is the fact that if you collect loan from the bank, for instance, to run your business, interest on that loan will be exempted from your tax payment, and so it will reduce your tax payment. So those are the various measures that businesses can take in tax planning, and it is legal. It is backed by the law. However, tax evasion is illegal. It's a crime, because you are not even trying to pay your taxes. You are trying to avoid it. Good. The third one is tax avoidance. Yes. So there's tax evasion, which is you are just away from it. Yeah. Then there's tax avoidance, in which you are trying to avoid paying the right thing. You are trying to bring some kind of funny ways. In some cases, people get away with it. But when you are caught for tax avoidance, they will recalculate your taxes and then you pay the full amount and everybody will move on. And that's why we have tax audits. You hear of people telling you that they are coming for tax audit. They are coming to audit your financials to be sure that what you have submitted to the returns you have submitted to the tax authority is equal to what you are expected to pay. So those are the various aspects of the law that people can play with to see how they can make their taxes fair. Thank you very much.
Okay. Trying to ensure that we wrap up quickly. Okay, Chinedum, you had it still up, but I think we are no longer speaking. I would ask Young Innocent now for you, please.
Would that be the last so that I can look for charger?
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Good evening.
It ought to be the last,
Good evening.
or second to the last. Sorry, Innocent. But we have 3 more hands, please. They keep coming up. Yes, please.
Oh, wow. What? Yeah. How many hours is this class supposed to be?
We're supposed to run it for about an hour, 30 minutes. So we started at about 5:30. So give or take 7, a few minutes past 7 is the ideal time to round this up.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. We won't take any further hands beyond this. Thank you. Go ahead, Innocent, please. Keep it brief.
All right, I'm with you, Mr. Innocent.
Hello.
Yes, I'm with you.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Speak up.
I think I'll move to the next person. Mr. Innocent, since you're not ready, you can place your questions in the chat box. I'll move quickly to John Olota. Please keep it as brief as possible. Thank you. Dominion, I might not take you anymore because you're coming in late. Your hand just came up. So go ahead, Dominic.
All right, thank you. Am I audible anyway? Am I audible?
Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like the facilitator to speak to. Yeah, we've noticed that the poor pay more taxes than the rich. I don't, maybe it's most especially in Nigeria. The rich negotiate them. All these bank charges, there are people who don't pay COT. They even interest, even the deductions that regular people pay, they negotiate them. But in other places, is the opposite. From the rich, we collect more and we collect less from the poor. But here, up till the recharge card, we buy almost everything. But they negotiate theirs. Even in terms of social CSR, how they hide it in their books, in their businesses. Also, people, look, I've never seen any part of the world where people want to collect taxes and they are running after bosses, they are beating people up. We might say the law, they are backed by the law, but it's not all of them. I'm in Lagos, and if you get chest, you feel stand anywhere, begin collect money before you are being arrested. So people just stand under this thing, they tell you they have union, there's no union, too many tickets that you cannot even, people print their own tickets. It's just about, some of us, we get into policies making very soon. And how do we guard against this thing? It's so annoying. Self-enrichment, things that more revenue that we cannot even give account for.
What exactly is the question? Well, can we get
I just wanted to talk to these nuggets. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so first things first, bank charges are not taxes. Those are charges from the bank. They have their own reasons. They'll tell you for transfers above certain, that's not tax. That's number one. Then your statement about the rich not being taxed. I want to understand when we speak about the rich here, I know that as far as I'm concerned, if you earn a business, or rather, if you own a business and you earn income from that business, provided that business is known to the revenue authorities, that business will pay its taxes. I'm not discounting the fact that there are sharp practices that happen. Taxation from time immemorial, even when Jesus Christ was on earth, tax collectors were known to be very sharp men. So forget that part. If I look at your file today, what I will see is different from what another auditor, a tax auditor, will come and see. So there's no certainty. But you cannot tell me that when you look at, when you go to the website of Nigerian Securities and Exchange and you see the financials of corporates in this country, you can't tell me that they don't pay taxes. Now, when you say the rich, maybe you're looking at the politicians. I hope you know that there are certain levels of public servants that are also exempted because of the positions they have. Diplomats do not pay. There are certain, I think, even if I'm not mistaken, international organizations, their staff that work in Nigeria, they earn a lot of money. They earn in dollars, but they don't pay taxes because of treaties. So, like I mentioned earlier, we need to educate ourselves to understand some of these things. Then coming to the issue of the agberos that collect these things, I hope you know that in Lagos, for instance, when you are buying land, you must settle the area boys. Now, I cannot say that it's backed by the law, but take them to police station and see what will happen to you. You might not enjoy that land again. They will come up with different things. So generally, some of these things are not backed by law. But as a citizen, as a Nigerian, you need to understand the laws that back certain things. You need to know when to fight for something and when to find a smart way of moving. Like you said, if you can chest it, yourself, if they come, tell them, say, no, go give them. If you can survive it, why not? But let me tell you, the truth of the matter is we need to equip ourselves with good knowledge. We need to also understand certain things so that we don't, because for me, I'm speaking with people not on the streets. I'm speaking with people that are coming back to give back to Nigeria. And tomorrow, the tax laws will have, some of you will be the ones to do it. And then you remember that, there was this dude that was talking about this. We should try and think about something. That is what I will be proud of. And so I'm not speaking to somebody that would complain, but somebody that will come up with better measures to see that we are able to collect these taxes amicably, easily, in a very simple way, and Nigeria gets better because we are going to utilize the revenue for the betterment of everybody. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Desmond, let's have your question. And the last question is Doreen Ayo. To make it very brief, please. Go straight to your question. Desmond, I'll ask you to unmute.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, facilitator. That is very, very important. I want to just share briefly. Where I work, we pay tax. Personally, I have my own tax that I pay. So when at the end of the month I pay, and I even receive my receipt of payment from FCT IRS. Funny enough, later they came to our office and they said they want to check our TV, the electronics, and we're now billed a lot of money because we had TV in the office and we're not even using it, but they said you have to pay for it. But the organization on its own is paying his tax. But later they came and they said we should pay for the TV and the rest in the office. The question is, how do we solve all of this double taxation? Because I know a lot of companies that when you want to ask them, you will do interview for them and will say, okay, please, can we publish the recordings? And they'll say, no, please, I don't want something FRS, or they'll now come and start taxing me, billing me. And these are people that are knowledgeable. The FRS are knowledgeable about these things, but why do they keep doing these things? And how do we now solve this double taxation? You are driving from Karo with your branded car. Karo will stop you, you pay. You are leaving it to Maraba, they will stop you and pay. Still the same local government. And do we keep paying these things again and again and again, despite the fact you have all the papers they want? If you're driving from Abuja to Lokoja today, even if you have all your papers, Lokoja will tell you you must pay. How do we solve all of this double taxation issue? These Agbero guys, why can't you digitalize that? You can see everything at once, not you keep paying. People traveling, they will have to, like, a driver will have to put 500, 200, so that he just try to settle them to get to where he's going. I don't think this will really help us in this country if we continue paying these multiple, double, plenty taxes. Yeah.
Okay, so this can be solved in a very simple way. Automation. If you automate all this, but even let me even ask you a question. Supposing you are the chairman of Abaji local government, and you know that you are supposed to raise revenue, and you have told your treasurer, director of admin and finance, that Baba, we need to make money, and we need to raise this money as fast as possible. Now, if a motorist that you know that this man is passing through, we need to stop him and collect it. Are you going to say, we are not going to collect to he's not fair now, he's coming from Abuja? Okay, this person is advertising. He has his logo, or maybe he has branded his vehicle. And as people see it, it's an advert, and it is increasing the income of that company. So are you trying to say that just because it's coming from Kaduna State, why will I collect it? Are you saying that if you are in that position, you let it slide? Those are questions we need to find out. Because every state needs this income. Every local government needs income. And if you don't raise this income, how do you run the affairs of the government? Those are questions. And so that is why I said it is very necessary for us to, first of all, have database in the country that would help us as a nation to be able to make adequate measures. Then also probably we'll look at the sharing formula at the federal level, which in the tax reform bills, some of these things have been taken care of, so that probably they increase revenue from generated when they are sharing it, the formula, they will increase it so that states and local governments will have more, so that they can be able to run their affairs without having to tax people for these other things. But truly, I can't readily give you a total solution to that. It is something that, whether we like it or not, it is the way we are. Other countries, you said you will never see them do that. But unfortunately, Nigeria, we're peculiar. We have our own peculiar ways of doing things. And so we cannot one day say we want to end it. But with time, we'll be able to see how we can automate our processes, and also maybe probably like in the case of, I think there are cases of where people live in Ogun and work in Lagos. Who do they pay tax to? Now, the act provides that provided you have slept in that jurisdiction for over 180 days, you are supposed to pay your tax there. So if you sleep in Ogun State and you work in Lagos, your tax should be routed back to Ogun State. But these are things that the Joint Tax Board at different levels have tried to harmonize. They have tried to bring up sharing formulas. They have tried to resolve conflicts between states in terms of who collects what. So I think with time, Nigeria will get better. And some of these things with automation, some of these things will be corrected. But generally, first things first, I believe if we have the right data, knowing everything precisely about every citizen, I think it will go a long way in correcting some of these things. So let me read the last question here on the chat box, where he said,
before that, okay. We have one more hand though before you come to the question of the chat.
Okay.
Ayo.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you so much for the session. So, we understand that we have to pay tax so that the government can provide essential services and also good governance, right? Now, we have sectors like education, we have health, we have water, hygiene. So, my own is these sectors are not functional. Most of them are not functional because they are not adequately funded. Now, for a country that the president's son goes around with, heavy convoy, the president himself travels to France very often. We have most of the executive meetings being held in luxurious hotels and sometimes outside the country. I would like to know, I may be wrong, so I can't be corrected. Where do they get the funds to sponsor some of these frivolous activities? Is it from the tax? If yes, how do we hold the government accountable? Because the same people that are implementing this tax are the same ones mismanaging the funds. So how do we hold them accountable? Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So, like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were in class then, tax is one of the sources of funds. Now, one of the people the participants that asked a question was talking about the ratio, tax to GDP ratio, which we have addressed. Basically, Nigerian budget last year, I can't remember the figure, but the revenue generated was about 14 trillion. Do you think if we have the adequate knowledge, because we're moving towards public finance now, you're taking us into public finance rather than taxation, because taxation ends at collection, because it's not a levy that is imposed for a benefit later. No, it's written in the law. It's not for a future benefit. It's a payment, it's a levy, it's a compulsory levy imposed by government on the citizens. Until that is revised by scholars, by other maybe emerging concepts, that is what is known as tax. Now, for them having those meetings, I don't know where they get it from. But obviously, I cannot be the one to say this is the source of fund because I've never been in that position. And until I find myself there, I wouldn't be able, I wouldn't be able to say anything to it. Thank you.
All right, so you can take the last question in the chat box. I think
Okay. You said the system put in place by tax institutions to educate the citizens and localize its importance of taxation and its implication in national development. Please, is there any accountability and transparency mechanism put in place in managing our taxes in order to give Nigerian citizens? Well, this still boils down to what I just mentioned, that tax is not a payment for a future benefit. Yes, it is used for running of governance, but you cannot, as a citizen, tell the government to tell you what they're doing with your taxes. It's not part of it. However, there are different positions. I think if you still, I don't know how many of us still watch NTA, but I think on AIT, NTA, there's this program they do, Tax Matters. It's sponsored by Federal Inland Revenue Service. And I think it's quite educating. So I would encourage us to do self-research as well as engage in further discussions such that we'll be able to know more about taxes and their implications. Like I told you earlier, tax administration ends at the collection, accounting and collecting and remitting of those taxes. I think that's the mandate of our Federal Inland Revenue Service, that they only account. They collect, account, and remit. FRS will not be the one to explain to anybody that this is what we did or this is what has been used. No. They push it to the government coffers, and because there's a budget already set by the government, they will run the business of the government based on the budget. And so something cannot be budgeted for, and then you will now wake up and say it wasn't done right. No, it's covered by the budget. And that's one thing about public finance. Provided you have followed the normal channel of doing what you have to do, you have actually done the right thing. So whether I put 10 billion, provided there was a budget for it, and there was fund at the time we requested for it, and they disbursed it following the normal channel of approval through the office of the accountant general and everything. That's all. We want to install our solar in Aso Rock, whether 10 billion is too much or is too small. Thank you very much.
All right, we have now come to the very end. I'd like to say thank you. This has been very insightful. One thing that has stood out for me is your stress of the fact that it's the job of our revenue collection agency, the IRS, is stops at collection. I think that's quite profound because a lot of people have questions as to what happens with our taxes. Thank you so much. It
stops at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll hand over to our DED so that she can do the proper thanks on behalf of the college. Thank you very much once again. Over to you, Lisa. Lisa?
Okay, yeah, I'm here. Well done. Thank you so much, Mr. Joe. It's been such an insightful class. Thank you for honoring our invitation over the course. I'm sure
I'm still saying I'm sorry for the delay.
No problem. It still was worth it. Thank you so much. I'll allow the students on mute to tell you thank you, and then we'll bring the class to a close.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I also enjoyed the discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a great lecture.
Thank you, sir.